Hi, and welcome to this month's Thoughts on Leadership. This month, the subject is holding yourself to a higher standard. On a recent visit to South Africa, I met a man by the name of Chesco, and him and his partner, Peter, set up this restaurant, which is probably one of the finest restaurant eating establishments that I have ever had the pleasure of going to. In my interview with Chesco, he said something, and it's a comment that I'd like to share with you. I asked him, what keeps you going? And this is what he said.
Exactly the same as what I expect, what I put out for the guys that work for me. It's a question of that achieve the best that you possibly can with the lot that you've got. This is my lot. I started off, I'm a restaurateur, and this is my lot. How do I achieve the most that I can in the environment? Let me look at the influences affecting a restaurant. What are the major influences affecting a restaurant? People. It's a people-driven business, from customers to staff. How can I take myself and my business to the highest level possible? Because that is how I'm going to measure my achievement. I'm not going to measure my achievement and I will not measure my achievement financially, because I can make money by doing things a lot easier. Yeah. For me, it's about what is my capacity, what is my capability. How do I define myself? What do I tell my son? Yeah. Who am I? Yeah. Who am I? Am I that person that got to a level, got too difficult and backed off? Am I that guy that got to a level, made a certain amount of money and switched off? Yeah. Or do I push as far as I can go? Yeah. And that is what motivates me. It's to get to as far as my God-given talents can take me. And and that's it. And it's a continuous journey. It doesn't end. No. It doesn't end. No. Not to say that I will. I probably blown I've exceeded my talents a long time ago. But I mean, it's a question of just waking up every day and trying better to improve yourself. There's still a sense of continuous improvement.
Most entrepreneurs say things like that. But what I liked about Chesco was the questions that he asked himself. What do I tell my son? Who am I? You see, what he's doing is holding himself accountable in a very powerful way. I've not met an adult that has got sons and daughters that doesn't want their child to admire them. And I find that people want this admiration from their children, but the problem is when they don't get it, they immediately then turn around and blame the child. My child is misguided, they don't understand, and they dismiss their lack of success with their children to blaming it on the child. Not many actually ask themselves, am I really doing the things that will make my offspring proud of me? Chesco was not asking that. He was not saying, how could he make his son or daughter proud of him? Chesco was saying, what do I tell my son? Who am I? You see, he clarified it further when he went on to say, am I the person that got to this level and then just gave up? Am I the person who got to a certain level and then backed off because it was too difficult? You see, he said, what was really interesting is he will not define himself by his money that he's earning. It's not that I've earned this much money and given up. So he was seeking to discover who he was and how far he could take his talents. Okay, and that's really what holding yourself accountable is really knowing what are you holding yourself accountable against. Because if you're holding yourself accountable to how your son feels about you, or how your daughter feels about you, or how this person feels about you, or how that person feels about you, it could be actually being quite narrow. Okay, but if you go beyond that, who do I tell them that I am? In other words, how do I define myself as to the type of person I am? Okay, and he was saying, I'm pushing myself, I'm extending my boundaries, I'm trying to discover how far I can go. I refuse to be measured by things like money. I refuse to be measured by things that don't matter to me or are not important. Now, don't get me wrong, is money important? Of course it's important. And there was no question about it that Chesco was very good at monitoring and in his business, and Peter, who did the finance side of things, were very good at ensuring that the money was right and that the money was cared for and that the money was being earned. but it wasn't a definition of who they were as individuals. So the difference between being accountable and the measurements we use are very different. The money can be used as a measurement. Money alongside quality, alongside hygiene, there's a number of measures that you can put in place there. But the holding yourself accountable is not measured in those sort of terms. So being accountable is about defining who we are, what are we about, are we the person that gave it a go and gave up when it became too difficult? And a major part of leadership is challenging ourselves to establish who we are and what do we represent. And the sad part of it is that we're often doing it and not realizing that we're doing it. Okay, I recently went and bought a bicycle for my wife and myself, and we didn't get round to using it for a couple of months because we were traveling straight after it. When I got to use it, I found that the wheel was not aligned, and took it back to the shop and said, it's this. They said, well, you've had it for a while, you've probably damaged it yourself. Now, what I didn't know was that in the shop, they'd had a number of those sort of complaints. I didn't know that at the time. And so the person at the counter finally said to me, listen, we're going to change it for you, but don't tell my boss. Okay, the boss won't change it because the boss doesn't want to be involved with putting it right. But that's not the right thing to do. So in this particular case, this individual is holding... they know what their boss holds themselves accountable for, and it's purely against the profit that he makes on a week-by-week or month-by-month basis. And this person wants to be held accountable for a higher level. Okay, and often our people know more about how we hold ourselves accountable than we know ourselves if we're not careful. So this month, I want you to ask you some very poignant questions. What do you hold yourself accountable to? Is the standard a standard that you'll be proud of to tell your daughter and your son? It's not about them being happy with it, but is it something that you would be proud to tell them about? And is the standard that you will be happy to see written on your gravestone? Okay, is this person remembered? He was great for the money he made, or she was wonderful for whatever it was. So consider. Remember, we need to hold ourselves accountable, and then ask yourself, how do we expect our people to be held responsible when we ourselves will not hold ourselves accountable? People will not be held to a higher level than you will be for yourself. So to what standard do your people think you hold yourself accountable to? Does their perception of you match yours? And what do you need to do to ensure that they know what you stand for? And one final question. Do you have enough standard that allows you to be the best you can be? Chesko said he was trying to push himself for as far as he could go. Is your standard enough to stretch you and to see how far you can go? Can you be the best leader you can be? Because leadership is about pushing yourself and rediscovering yourself and rediscovering what works. And so I ask you to consider that question very carefully. In terms of being the leader, what is the best you can be? How far can you go? I hope you have a really great month. I hope this has been stimulating and challenging as well, and that it is helping you be the better leader. Have a great month, and until next month, take care.